Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is episode 4 of Friends with Benefits, the interview series. Today I have Luciana, which I have to refer to my notes because her title is very long. She's an integrative and functional medicine dietitian and nutritionist. That alone, you already know that she's packed with wisdom and knowledge. Luciana and I met, we were just talking about this. Let me see if I get this right. We met at Melody's retreat of, what was it? The New Moon, New Beginnings retreat, which was like not that long ago. We actually just recently met. And we actually both go to Heartway. That is a church we go to, but also I like to refer to it as a community that we're a part of.
Based on love.
Yes, teachings of love. Do you want to tell people about yourself a little bit before we get started?
Yeah, so I'm a integrated functional medicine dietitian nutritionist. I'm also a registered dietitian and licensed in the state of Florida. I have my private practice in functional nutrition where I do that pretty much 60% of my time. And then I work at Memorial Regional Hospital in kidney transplant. I help patients get optimized before surgery, and then I see them after surgery. But pretty much I come in and just help out the other dietitians. I'm a per diem there, and I pretty much help out in ICU, trauma, oncology. I mean, kind of like wherever I'm needed, whenever I'm needed. So
That's a lot.
yeah.
Also, before we get to questions, I forgot to mention Luciana brought us these fun drinks. We're not sponsored by any means, but she was nice enough to bring me one. Do you want to tell us what this is?
So it's a mushroom elixir, dragon fruit lemonade. So it has lion's mane and cordyceps.
Ooh, 2 different mushrooms.
So it's adaptogens. Are you familiar with adaptogens?
I'm familiar with the term, but not exactly what they do.
So pretty much what the name says, adaptogens, they adapt. They adapt to, when you're under a lot of stress or just like, for example, if your body's producing too much cortisol throughout the course of the day, mushrooms are going to kind of like bring it to.
Oh, they help you with homeostasis.
Exactly. So like support that whole function, your adrenal function, but also cordyceps and lion's mane is for energy, and it's also for your nervous system, so for brain.
Thank God I saw that this has caffeine, because if I would have drank this whole thing, I would have felt like I was on crack.
But the caffeine is from green tea.
Oh my God, I love it even more.
This is my second one. I already had one today.
Oh my gosh, cheers. Oh, that's really good. I like this. Oh my God, you hit it. So we know your profession, but can you tell us a little more about how you got into that profession?
I got into nutrition at a young age because of all the health issues that I developed at a young age after I moved to America. When I moved to America at the age of 13, my body completely rejected the American diet. I didn't know where a lot of my health issues were coming from until now that I have the knowledge and the awareness of, in the early 90s, all the GMOs, all the preservatives, a lot of these foods that were introduced to the American diet, my body completely rejected. Now that I have the knowledge and everything that I went through. Around the age of 16, 17, I just started developing a lot of cyst issues, beginning stages of endometriosis, and I ended up having my first surgery where a cyst literally the size of a lime was removed from my left breast. So when that happened...
Wow, that's scary.
It was very scary. So my parents couldn't understand because part of my life I grew up, eating whole foods from a farm and not having the knowledge or knowing, like, for example, like, I know as a kid, I'm sure you ate McDonald's and you ate all these things, but in Brazil, like going to McDonald's was like eating a real burger. It wasn't like eating the kind of foods that,
Like the prepackaged.
Exactly, and things like that. So when I went through my first surgery, about a year later, I ended up having to go on birth control, but then the problems ended up coming right back because it wasn't getting to the root cause of the problem. It was kind of like just masking the symptoms and things like that. I remember I started working at, are you familiar with Houston's restaurant?
Houston's? Yeah, it's like a steakhouse, right?
It's pretty much, and I ended up working there for a good 4 or 5 years, and I remember this functional medicine doctor was sitting in my table, and I kept hearing talking to his clients saying how, she had all these cyst issues, and she ended up, having endometriosis and polycystic ovarian syndrome, which ended up being the diagnosis that I had. And I heard him saying like, there's many different factors that causes that. As I'm hearing the dialogue, I'm like, just like pouring their wine and listening to all this. And she was saying how she couldn't get pregnant. And I'm like, all right, maybe this is the answer that I needed because I was praying so hard to find somebody that was going to help me get to the root cause.
Wow.
So at the end, I ended up like, hey, can I ask you a question? I ended up telling him that I had these issues. I had surgery, and I ended up having a consultation with him. And this was at the age of 21. 18 was my surgery, and then ended up coming back, and then I met this man at the age of 21. So I ended up making an appointment with him, and I come through his program, and it was like the whole functional approach. Functional approach is, where is the problem coming from? Where's the root cause? So that's when I started learning, going through his programs about deficiencies, nutritional deficiencies, how you support functions in the body. Then I started finding out how my body didn't like those foods that were introduced to the American soil. And I went to this whole program to optimize everything that he found that was deficient in nutrition, deficient in my body. I remember going back to my doctor at 23 because she told me if those cyst issues were coming back, most likely I was going to have more surgeries. And she's like, and if it gets worse, we might even have to remove one of your ovaries.
Wow.
So this is really young age, and I was very athletic. I played sports all through high school. I thought my intake was healthy, what I thought was healthy. But again, just no knowledge what food was made like in America because I was still learning everything. So by going through his programs for like 6 months of doing different modalities, I healed, and I ended up not having any more surgeries after that. And I fell in love with the whole functional approach, which is getting to the root cause. And I ended up becoming an intern. At the time, I was trying to go to medical school because I wanted to become a doctor. And when I went through his training and coming in as an intern, I fell in love with, I'm like, wait, I can heal my body and then I can go help other people. And I ended up working for him for 9 years prior through everything, like getting my license and things like that, yeah.
It blows my mind that you just met him. So I didn't know that part of your story, that you just met him
in my restaurant while I was pouring his wine. I just kept listening to that conversation.
What are the chances?
Girl, the power of prayer.
It really is, because
It is.
that's like a magical moment that, like, without it literally changes the course of your life.
Change everything. And it's interesting because I would tell people about probiotics, and I would tell people about, glutamine and things like that. And, people look at me like I'm crazy. And I would talk about the gut microbiome, which like now all the research, everything is about the gut microbiome.
Yes.
So it's like, so I'm truly blessed that I got that at a young age, and I found my passion, and I went through his program, and I've learned how to help other people, but also, help myself from pretty much developing other issues. I mean, I had other issues after that with acne, but that was, going through stress with school, staying up all night, but it was still like kind of gaining all that knowledge and stuff.
Right. Oh, that's so amazing.
Yeah, right?
So we know that you do more of the integrative approach with your own clientele. You're a registered dietitian, and with that you work in the hospital.
Correct. So what happened was, when I was trying to go to medical school, I've realized that as a licensed dietitian, registered dietitian, I can still take the same route as in the functional approach. I didn't necessarily need it to be an MD.
Right.
So just by getting that license, because functional nutrition is approved by the academy, it kind of like, there was like the light bulb was like, okay,
Yeah.
I can do this, do nutrition, I can still work in the hospital, I have choices, like still learning, like
Yeah.
what was good for me and what was meant to be for me,
Yeah, and I think that's perfect, honestly, because a lot of times some people take the approach of, I hate to say it this way, but kind of shitting on Western medicine, when I still think it's very important and like integral, and like that's the whole point of it being integrated.
Amen. Because what I see what they do in the hospital. So in the hospitals, right, it's a queue. It's what can we do now? Function is what can we do more for the future of your body?
Yes.
Optimizing functions and stuff. But listen, medication is needed when it's needed. And there's a reason why it's integrated.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
And I feel like you've kind of covered it, but is there anything else that you could tell us to describe the difference between the two, your work as a registered dietitian and as an integrative and functional medicine nutritionist?
Absolutely. So in traditional dietetic school, we're not learning root cause. We're learning is, what is the diagnosis? How do we manage it? So to give you an example, someone with hypertension. So someone with hypertension, I'm going to tell them, hey, these are protocols, by the way. These are standard protocols that we learn in clinical nutrition. So I'm going to tell someone, hey, you're going to follow the DASH diet, which is like a modified sodium. You're going to do this. So it's like a lifestyle, but you're not getting to the root cause why this person has high blood pressure in the first place. Or someone with IBS. So with IBS, from a traditional dietetics training, I tell someone, hey, you follow the low FODMAP diet, which you're cutting out.
So popular, the low FODMAP diet.
Right, but it's only indicated for 4 weeks. And then after that, I tell someone, like in the hospital, I mean, if I can build connections in the hospital, I can go a little bit more deep and bring in the functional. But for the most part is, do the low FODMAP, here's your list, and then after that, do things as tolerated. Is that really getting to the bottom line? Not really. Now, as a functional medicine nutritionist, I'm like, okay, I know you have IBS. Where is the problem coming from? Half of the time, I don't even do the low FODMAP. I'm already looking at where do you have dysfunctions in the body? Where do you have nutritional deficiencies or insufficiencies? Or I'm asking questions from the day they were born, like where you grew up with trauma. Trauma is huge now when it comes to IBS.
Yes.
And
Yes, huge.
Or were you a kid that took a lot of antibiotics growing up? Were you a kid that was breastfed or bottle fed? Were you vaginal birth or normal delivery?
Yes.
So I ask so many questions so I know really even how to personalize the plan because everybody's different, but the foundation is the same.
Ah, bingo. Wow, you worded that beautifully because something in my training that was really stressed over and over again was how bio-individual everyone is.
We're all different,
Yeah.
different biochemical individuality, but the problem comes
To the same foundations.
exactly.
Oh my God, that was great. I love that.
That's why I knew when I saw your title, I'm like, wait, we got to have this conversation.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Do you have a niche of clients that you work with? Obviously, at the hospital, we know it's with transplant patients of different kinds, but more like your functional and integrative side.
My average client is really females, anywhere from the age of like, I would say 17 to 60. But I've worked with, UFC fighters. I've worked with some children when the mom is obviously has to be involved when she's on board. I pretty much have worked with a lot of athletes. I try to stick to females more, but here's the thing. I do discovery calls. If anybody comes for my help, to ask for my help, I do a discovery call to see even if we're the right fit. Because with functional, you have to really be ready to do the work. And not everybody's ready. When I do the discovery calls, I already know by doing some motivational reviewing, I already know if your readiness to do the work or not. So luckily, a lot of the people that come to me are already like, oh my God, I'm ready to do anything, because they've tried other things. Kind of like where I was. When I tried different things and then I found this man that I ended up working for. I would say 70% is more females, but I'm always, I'm a healer, I'm a helper, I'm always down to help anybody. As long as we're in the same partnership, that we understand that it's not a miracle, that it's going to take a little bit of work for us to get there.
You know what's funny? I was talking to my friend Ashley, the one that is the doctor of Ayurveda. She was the previous interview, and we talked about something similar where like a lot of people come to these different modalities of healing when they're at the end of the rope, you know? And so like it sort of, you could look at it as a bad thing, but I think that's also a really great thing sometimes because people are so frustrated by that time that they don't have expectations of anything working. Girl. That like you are willing to do it and you do see the smallest signs of improvement because you haven't seen any improvement prior, that like the smallest adjustment and you feel a little something, you're like, oh, I'm clinging on to something here. Like this is hope.
And that's what functional medicine is and nutrition. I bring hope and healing to my clients. It's interesting. Half of the time, I don't even tell them some of these things are going to happen. I just let them go through it. Yeah. And then they come at me like, oh my God, this happened and this happened. I'm like, but it's just the power of how the body can heal.
Yes.
And that's why everything is connected in the body. So in functional medicine nutrition, we believe that all your organs, everything is connected. All your bodily functions are connected. Yes. So if one function is not working correctly, the other function is not going to work correctly. So if your gut is not working correctly, then your liver is going to take a hit.
Yes, it's like an orchestra, all moving parts.
So we're going way deeper what the problem is, and then I try to customize the plans of like how can I support all those functions that are dysfunctioning to bring it back into functioning.
So there's nothing that like you don't help with. I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Like someone comes to you with diabetes or hypertension or no diagnosis, or like there's nobody that you're going to like turn away unless you feel like maybe they're not ready to do the work.
Correct. Okay. So pretty much having the clinical aspect, the functional aspect, all my years of training experience, I can kind of come in and make an impact, even if it's something small. I do baby steps. Not everybody is ready to really go. I do have a couple of people that are ready to do everything at once, but you can't do it that way. You can't.
Yes. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, you can't do. You got to do things in stages.
It makes it more sustainable.
There you go.
People get overwhelmed and then they want to give up if you give them like 5 changes to make at once. I know you mentioned the motivational interviewing, and I read that book. Yeah. So I know what you mean, because it's just like the person has to feel like they're capable and like they're also making the decision, not like you're just giving it to them and it's almost like homework. Like, no, you're also part of your healing. Like, decide
Absolutely.
what is sustainable for you.
Right.
What can you change?
Absolutely. And then recently, because of my last training with the IFM with Dr. Mark Hyman, we bring more of this trauma. I bring more of the spiritual component, which I felt like that was like the missing link. So I tell them, like, listen, I'm here, I'll support you, I will motivate you, because that's just, I know what I bring to the table. But I need you to make sure that you're really putting the self-care, the spiritual practice, the morning nature walks, the getting the morning sunlight, because there's so much that I can do, but everything is going to come together once you take all the other approaches, all the factors into consideration.
What do you do first when a client comes to you? For example, if someone comes to me, I don't do any diagnostic testing, but it's more of extensive questionnaires to be filled out that are symptom-based. So do you have something like that? Is it blood work? Like, what's your first approach?
So a lot of people that come to me already, they're desperate. So I would say maybe half of them already have a lot of these labs available, which is awesome. So I usually do a first initial consult, because the first initial consult is where I build a connection, where I ask a lot of questions from the day they were born, so I can understand more how I need to approach it to connect everything. So specific questions, then I know also how I build not only the nutritional plan, but also how am I going to go about recommending supplements. Now I started working with a lab called Rupa Health.
That sounds familiar.
Rupa Health University.
Okay.
So when I started with functional 15 years ago, all these testing were so expensive. So because functional is not covered by insurance, because it's considered above standard of care. Like if you go see a dietitian, like in the hospital, for example, for diabetes, you're going to get a nutritional consult, you're going to get like your plan, but it's standard care. Where functional, there's so much more, because I'm teaching you how to eat, how to grocery shop.
And it's, like you said, catered to the individual.
Exactly. So now that I'm so excited to work with Rupa Health, like a DNA stool test that cost me like $1,000 10 years ago, it's now $400.
Oh my goodness.
A Dutch test that it was cost me like $700 7 years ago. Now it's I believe it's $299 or $399. I'm actually taking all their boot camps, all their trainings, so that I make sure that I'm up to date to all the testing. But sometimes I don't need the testing, because just by asking the proper questions, I already know how to get them started, and then I can implement some testing.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Side note, I have heard a lot about Dutch tests lately. I don't know exactly what it is. Have you done it before yourself?
I've done it.
Is it hormone or?
So it checks your cortisol, but it gives you like a map of how your hormones are doing.
Ah, wow.
Because hormones are better tested with urine or saliva than
in blood, right?
Blood,
I have heard this.
Because it's not picking up things that are in the tissue. So blood is going to tell me like, okay, what's going on now. It's not going to give me an overall indication.
The details.
I'm telling you, it's all about the details, girl.
Yeah.
Because the biggest problem is that, internet, everybody's self-diagnosing, taking things, and,
yes.
can do more harm than good. Hey, I've done that, so.
No, me too, believe me. Which is actually a perfect segue for the next question, which is there's so much nutritional advice on social media platforms. So I wanted to see if you can somehow give us advice on how to navigate all the information that's out there, and how to really, I mean, I guess there's no way to really know, but how to better decipher like what's real and what's just a trend or a myth.
I think social media is great when it comes to like, if you're trying to learn, you're curious about health and nutrition, or learn about healthy eating, or even, recipes and things like that. I think based on someone's qualification, they're going to give their type of advice. So I think we should be careful, because it's not personalized. So there's a lot of debate amongst healthcare professionals that are very scientific based. They're promoting, what they think health and nutrition is. But I think that can confuse people, because nutrition should be personalized. So I feel like if you have some chronic issues going on, you should really be careful and like really find someone that you can work closely hand in hand, that can work with you through the process.
Yeah.
But again, I feel like there is a lot of amazing people on social media, don't get me wrong, like that are giving great advice. So I think if you stick with basic stuff that you can apply into your life, whatever that resonates to you, it's great. But I also believe like anybody that's promoting one size fits all, red flag.
Yes.
Or like a quick fix, red flag. I mean, even like anybody promoting that their diet is the best one. because it's not personalized. So I think we should be careful with that. I think that would be great for the audience, because I feel like when I started, that's what I would resonate towards, things that I can implement on my daily routine. But I do want to share a couple of myths, like, about,
Yeah, please.
I know this one is going to be,
Controversial?
you know what?
Say it.
Guys, cholesterol is not bad for you.
Oh, amen. I agree.
Okay. Unless you have a genetic predisposition.
Like, so in
and
other
that's
words,
different.
you mean like salt is not bad? Is that like an AKA, or is this a separate topic?
Well, salt's not bad, because you
Right.
need sodium for hydration.
Yeah, because that's another one. I didn't
Right.
know if it correlated, but a lot of people think salt is bad for you.
Right, but I mean, if I know you have high blood pressure, I'm not going to take, which is a problem in the hospital. You don't take away the salt completely.
Maybe table salt, like bad quality salt.
Exactly. So, I always tell everybody, everything in moderation. Like I tell my patients, 2 grams a day. But with the whole cholesterol thing is that, your body produces cholesterol. And our dietary cholesterol only 5% of dietary cholesterol, like intake from food, affects your total cholesterol.
Wow.
Guess what actually affects your total cholesterol?
I'm just taking a stab in the dark here. Stress?
Holy crap. I always ask people that question, and they're like, but I figured.
Is it stress?
Yes.
Oh, that was a wild guess though. Wow.
Yeah. Stress.
Incredible.
Again, unless you have a genetic predisposition, and that's touching the whole like epigenetics, genetics,
Yeah.
genomics. If you have a defective or a genetic predisposition,
Yeah.
if I see your total cholesterol is 400, then I know something's wrong. But like if I see that it's around like 220, 230, cholesterol is super important for your hormones and for your brain.
Interesting.
You need cholesterol.
When
to
have you heard a
make-
doctor say that?
You need cholesterol to make progesterone. Cholesterol, it's part of all your sex hormones.
Wow.
It's the most abundant part of the human cell. How do you absorb things? When people talk about cholesterol being like, when I hear those things, I'm like, I've learned when to voice my opinion or not, because some people are still learning, and I think that's what makes a great practitioner. Like I'm always still learning.
Yeah. If
I'm
you're
a-
not, something's
Exactly.
wrong. Like that's sort of everyone's, I think, agenda should be to always be learning.
Right. Same thing with fat. Fat is bad for you. Fat makes you fat.
Oh, yes.
Fat does not make you fat. Fat is super important.
Yeah, healthy fats, of course. Like,
Right.
yeah, super important. Also for your hormones, I believe, right?
Absolutely. Also about not calories are the same calories. If I'm eating a 1,500 calorie diet, how are you getting that calorie? So I've worked with a lot of people that are like, well, I'm eating this to get my calorie intake, but this, and this is affecting your gut. You see what I mean? Like it's not, the calories not, if I'm trying to help your gut, I'm not going to give you, how can I explain? Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Okay, I think, so correct me if I'm wrong, like obviously the foods that you're consuming.
Right, the quality is important.
Because
to heal, for the healing.
Let's say like what's a random number of calories that I should have in a day? Like just for an example.
At least 1,800.
Okay, 1,800. So if I understand what you're saying correctly, it's like saying, oh, I reached 1,800, but that was like in chips and Snickers versus like, oh, I had
You got it, yeah.
chicken.
It's just the quality
yeah.
of the...
Okay.
And, and again, it's taking, again, that personalized approach.
And also a healing approach, because I think, I could be wrong, but I feel like most people who are counting calories are on like a fitness journey of some
Absolutely,
sort.
which if you're in that journey, I've worked with those people.
And so like does their, I know they'll say their health matters to them, but do they understand, like some people are more worried about the calorie versus like what you're saying.
Absolutely, especially when it comes down to like with the UFC fighters, they have to cut
Yes.
prior to, the fight. And some of this thing that these fighters do is so like unsustainable. How they're just like, I'm not gonna go into details, but
They cut. They do
right,
what they have to do to cut.
But then after like the fight,
They binge.
yeah, it's a binge, and I think there's a sustainable way to get there by eating the certain types of foods.
There's like an expression which is like taking the shortcut sometimes makes like takes longer or
Yes.
it's more expensive in the end.
Absolutely, and I think that it's a lifestyle. And that's what I try to implement when I work with my clients, or even like when I was working with the UFC fighters and things. That I tell them like this is a whole year round. I'm not saying we can't have fun
Yeah.
and eat those bad things sometimes, but I think if you have, You have to learn your body, you have to learn your goals, you have to learn what your body likes and dislikes.
Mm-hmm.
You have to learn that not always the foods you're eating is going to be good for you. So I think that whole functional approach is better for me personally than counting carbs or being a specific diet, or I
Yeah.
just take in consideration like what's best for your body type and also your tailored to your needs and your preferences.
Yeah, and knowing that, like you're saying, like you still can do those things. You can still
Exactly. I'm an
count,
80/20
which is
person.
a realistic thing. You know,
Yeah.
it's a realistic thing that we're still gonna have our desires for. I don't know why I'm using this again. A Snickers or like whatever, or like a drink of alcohol that isn't the best for your gut. So
Girl,
like,
I learned how to make Nutella with the right ingredients.
oh,
I have the recipe.
have you tried the Snickers one? I keep bringing
There
up
is a, I've
Snickers. The
seen it.
date, I think like almond butter. I forget what it is, but it looks amazing. I haven't
No, I
tried
know
it yet.
exactly. I think what's her name? Rachel's Good Eat. I think she has
Oh,
a
okay.
recipe for that. And listen, and that's the thing, like, and that's what I teach my clients. Like, you want to make a cake? Use these ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make a cookie? Use these ingredients. I don't
Yeah.
deprive them from eating delicious and nutritious foods. It's just, it has to do with the quality of the ingredients because those are the ingredients that are doing damage to the gut.
Yeah, it's just relearning.
It is. It's relearning, and it's a process. That's why the work I do is profound because you're carrying long term. And this happens every time. When I work with one person in the family, then the whole family gets on board after that.
I believe it. I believe it because you see it happen for someone else, and you're like, "Oh, this clearly works. I'm in. Like,
Yeah.
I want this for myself."
Yeah.
What's the shortest amount of time you've seen a client experience relief of symptoms with your nutritional help?
1 week.
Wow,
I
that's
love-
really encouraging.
I love getting those. When I start working with a new client, I love getting on that first follow up call.
Okay, is that your favorite call?
It is my favorite call because I know that something is going to improve. So if I'm working with someone that is not going number 2 correctly, they're like, oh my God. I mean, I worked with people, girl, that was going to the bathroom once a week, once every 2 weeks.
Okay, so that used to be me at some point.
Yeah.
So that's painful. Like that, I'm so sorry for those
So
people.
just that 1 week of the little things I implemented and with the certain supplements that I use, when they tell me like, oh my God, I went 4 times this week, I'm like,
Wow.
Yeah.
Which, not to say that that's going to happen to everyone. Not
Exactly.
everyone is going to experience
Exactly,
changes in 1 week.
exactly.
But to think about how when you have the proper tools, proper resources, proper
Exactly.
help, and when you have the desire to want to help yourself, like 1 week and you can notice a difference. That's huge.
Absolutely. And I feel like just even gaining the consistency of that week of doing the right things. And I tell everybody, listen, sometimes it may take you a month to
Yeah.
pick up, but the month is, I feel like it's that behavior change. It's like putting into, and
Yeah, because what do they say? Like it takes 90 days to form a habit or something along those lines?
21 days.
Oh, is it 20?
But I feel like once you created the awareness to make a change and you make that behavior change, I feel like that 21 days is right, but I feel like
it could be out the window.
Exactly.
Yeah, because if you want it bad enough, it could take one day
Thank
and
you.
it's down.
Girl, it's all about awareness.
Yes.
With this level of awareness, what will I choose?
Oh my gosh, yes. And you know what's it's not crazy, but it brings me back that like when I first started my healing journey and then began to articulate like what helped me or what I think could help other people, that was one of the things that really came out for me was like it really boils down to your awareness. How aware are you of what your body's telling you or asking for? Or how aware are you of your habits? Because some people don't even realize the things that they're snacking on every day. Like you know how you're saying it takes asking the right questions? Like there's a question, I think in my questionnaire where it's like, how often do you eat fried foods or like takeout? And like when you really have to sit down and calculate how many times a week or a month it is, some people are like, oh wow, like am I doing it this often?
The best questions, I'm like, how much money do you think you saved this month? A lot.
Oh, once you put your help?
Yeah, because I'm teaching them that they can still eat nutritious and delicious, cook at home. You're making better habits and you're saving money in the long run.
Which a lot of people think that it's not only a time investment. A lot of people think that it's like expensive. So it's
not
great
expensive.
that's great that you make
I
that
work,
point.
and I also work with people's budget.
That's great to know.
Again, preference. I ask them, what's your budget?
Yeah.
Because everybody, I get people that can splurge a little bit more.
Yeah.
Spend the extra. Or some people, I only have this, I can do this. But
That touches my heart. It really
Yeah.
does, because I feel like there are a lot of people in this world that want better for themselves but feel like it's not within their means.
And not only that, the support. If you're not getting the support to help you get there, because when I went through my journey, I had the support. I had
Like
someone,
from friends and family, you mean?
not even friends and family, just the person you're working with.
Oh, okay.
Because there's a lot of people that will give you a plan and, oh, hey, I'll talk to you in a month. And I
Mm.
feel like the reason why functional is a different approach is because you're following up, you're staying top. Or, I mean, again, I customize, hey, do you want to go grocery shopping together? Sometimes I get people don't even know what, like basic stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like we go grocery shopping together. It's just a whole journey of changing those habits. So,
Yes, you're right. It makes it less scary.
yeah, you have that support of somebody, holding you accountable or
Yes.
being your cheerleader.
Yeah, that's huge, being
Huge.
someone's cheerleader. Oh, I love
know.
that. You're so great.
Oh,
One of our listeners asked, what are the first steps to start working on your gut health?
let go of all the processed foods.
Okay, so for someone who maybe doesn't know what that entails, how could you explain processed foods?
Anything from a box, a can, pretty much. Like, okay, put it this way. If you're not cooking yourself, if it doesn't say less than 5 ingredients, then most likely it's processed.
That's a big change, yo.
And then start incorporating more whole foods,
Mm,
more plant-based. Now, plant-based doesn't mean vegetarian or vegan.
right.
When I say plant is pretty much 60-70% of your intake should be based on vegetables
Yeah.
intake.
Which I feel like maybe one day we can make this a future project, because I don't
Yeah.
think people truly know how tasty vegetables can be and how versatile they are. I feel like people think that veggies are for bland diets and like when you're trying to lose weight and like you just can't add anything to them, but like you season it right, you roast it, you grill it, like there's different ways to make it, and like it's really good food,
I think also another rule of thumb is if you suspect that your body's reacting to certain types of foods,
Mm-hmm.
do elimination diet on your own. Like a small one, like let go of dairy.
Yes.
I mean, like the big offender foods like dairy, soy, corn, wheat, and then see how even eggs. Sometimes people react to eggs.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that happens is when you have a lot of inflammation in the gut, because it's not a true allergy, it's an intolerance. So when you're eating these types of foods that are more offender foods,
Mm-hmm.
it's already going to create, if you're not digesting correctly, your body's going to create already an inflammatory response.
Mm-hmm.
So if you suspect something like that, if you're not working with somebody, like for a couple of weeks, just let's say give up eggs
Yeah.
or give up soy, give up corn, give up wheat, give up dairy.
And would you agree that if someone goes through one of these elimination diets, it doesn't necessarily mean they can never reintroduce that back?
Correct.
Okay.
It's just you're giving your immune system, right? Because your immune system, part of it is located in the gut. You're just kind of giving your body a break of eating types of foods that are reacting. It's just so you can get more of that inflammation under control. And if you have questions or you have, like, if you don't feel comfortable doing this, is kind of where I tell somebody, hey, do you need to work with somebody that's going to help
Yeah,
you get
yeah.
there,
Reach out, yo.
Yeah.
Okay, so we had 2 steps. Do you want to add any other ones? That was
I was
remove
gonna-
junk food.
I was going to say, and obviously incorporate probiotics and prebiotics into your routine.
So this might be a myth, and I would love for you to correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know I read somewhere that not everyone can benefit from probiotics. And more specifically, I think what I was reading was referring to people who maybe unknowingly have parasites. Really, what it was saying was that probiotics feed your gut bugs, but sometimes it could also feed the bad gut bugs. Is that incorrect?
Well, probiotics is the actual,
Good bugs.
it's the live bacteria.
Okay.
Prebiotics is the food for the bacteria.
Okay.
So if somebody's not sure about, when I say probiotics, it's more like fermented foods. You can do like kimchi,
Okay.
sauerkraut, things like that. Not every probiotics in the market is actually good. So,
Like supplement wise?
correct. And I can give an indication when I know it's not good or it's good. So when you look at a probiotics, have you ever taken probiotics?
Yeah.
So when you look at the proprietary blend, it's actually going to break down the live cultures.
Yes.
And it's going to say like 20 CFUs,
Mm-hmm.
15, like let's say bifidobacteria
Billion.
billions, and this is going to be this, and this is going to be that. It's going to break down each strain and how much of the CFUs. But when a probiotic is not quality, it's going to say how much CFUs total. So it's not breaking down individually. It's going to say like the proprietary blend. So it's going to say like 50 billion, and then they're going to say 50 billion contains bifidobacteria, lactobacillus acidophilus, like it's going to
The different strands.
Correct. So it's not going to put them like in a column. It's going to say like next to each other.
That is a great rule of thumb to look out for.
And honestly, prebiotics is actually more, the science is proving now that prebiotics are more impactful than so much probiotics.
Okay.
Because you need prebiotics to feed. I'm not saying you don't incorporate probiotics, but prebiotics, it's what feeds the gut bugs.
Yeah.
So, you know, banana or asparagus. There's so many types of prebiotics, but I mean, it's easy. Just someone can just type prebiotics on the internet. And it comes up
and you'll get them. That's so funny.
But just, you know what? Just eat more plants.
Yeah.
Just eat more greens.
And that's like you're saying, like that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a vegetarian.
Correct.
You're just incorporating it more.
Right. Correct.
Which I love that.
And listen, a good rule of thumb is like if you're having a hard time incorporating vegetables into your intake, I tell my clients to make smoothies, and you can just like get some spinach or kale, and the spinach is awesome because you don't taste the spinach. If somebody has problem with taste, you don't taste the spinach in your smoothie. So you're like, I tell them like 3-4 handfuls.
Yeah.
You just got a lot of intake at one shot.
Yeah. That is great.
It's gonna look green.
Yeah,
You're not gonna taste the spinach.
Girl, I put so many random things in my smoothie. My smoothies look brown. It's so funny. But you're right. You don't taste the spinach.
Yeah.
You really don't.
Another good one is make sure that your intake of omega-3s. Because omega-3s is going to put that inflammation under control in the gut. Obviously, also comes with quality when it comes to supplements.
Yeah.
But, you know, like salmon, sardines, anchovies. I know, like, some people are like, not going to do sardines and anchovies.
It's so unfortunate because
Yeah.
I did read that, and I wanted to try to get myself to consume more. I don't think I've tried it in years, sardines or anchovies. So I told myself I was going to try it on a pizza one day to see if, like, I could introduce the flavor.
It's interesting because I grew up eating pizza in Brazil with anchovies in it.
Yeah, that's a thing.
It is a
That
thing.
is a thing. I mean, I've seen it here, not that
Yeah.
common, but people do it and they love it. I could see it tasting good on pizza. Everything tastes good on pizza.
And here's another rule of thumb with omega-3 supplements, with the fish oil. If you're burping the fish oil, it's oxidized.
Oh, interesting.
So that's not a good quality. And when you look at the component of the EPA, DHA, make sure that combined is above 600 milligrams.
Y'all better be taking notes. So, but what are the chances that like someone actually burps up the fish oil and it's actually because they have like IBS until they burp a lot?
No, girl, you're gonna
Taste
that thing.
Oh,
You're gonna know.
Okay, she said there's no denying.
I don't want to talk so much about the actual like. Maybe that should be more like 101.
Yeah,
Because I know
saying.
there's different. I would say there's 3-4 different kinds that I like, but it also comes down to price. So like just for the purpose of our the recording and stuff, just know that's a good rule of thumb.
That's great. I had never heard that, so that's good to know. We are almost at the end of our interview.
Yes.
Just to give people, even though people have gotten a lot of tips that are great that they can take away, can you give us 3 other tips to help with people's daily nutrition?
I always start my day with water and lemon. Lemons have polyphenols, and we're in a generation that we're surrounded by so much toxins, and as you get older, our cells get free radicals, oxidized. So we need more antioxidants, we need more plant medicine, more polyphenols. I love to put lemon on everything, actually.
Me too. I'm with you on that.
So start with hydration as soon as you wake up, and if you're someone that crash early in the day, I would say wait like an hour. If you're a coffee drinker, wait an hour to drink coffee.
Okay.
I know we talked about salt earlier for hydration. If you can afford good electrolytes, I take Element. I don't know if
Oh, I've heard of this. Yeah, it's LMNT, right?
correct. I take Element, but hydration is obviously super important. You'd be surprised what dehydration does to your brain, to everything. Like people think, oh, I'm just dehydrated. Yeah, well, I see in the hospital people are dehydrated, but if you're not alert throughout the course of the day, likely you're dehydrated.
Yeah.
So add a little bit of sea salt in your water. That's a good rule of thumb. And I really liked what you had on your stories the other day with the garlic and the honey. We are flu season.
Yeah.
So,
It leaves your breath kicking, but
yeah. And then another one that would be, so these are super impactful and super helpful, but do not eat 3 hours before bed.
Oh, that's the hardest one for me.
Yeah.
But I know I feel the difference when you do that.
If you're waking up in the middle of the night, if you're eating right before bed, you're not going to go into that REM, to that rest and sleep that you
Even
need
if
to,
it's a snack?
even if it's a snack. Our ancestors, grandparents, they were doing it correctly.
Yeah.
You don't want to, you want actually want to eat towards with your circadian rhythm. So like eat when it's light out.
I was just going to say that because, like I used to think this way and I hear other people say this too. It's like, how's my stomach going to know what time of day it is? Like, really? Why can't I eat before bed? It's like, no, that's actually really not true. We do have a circadian rhythm, which mirrors the sun, you know? Like,
and if you're a person that don't sleep well at night, make sure you get that light within an hour you wake up. So for the past year, I would say 70% of the time, I was watching the sunrise. And that light, like looking straight into the sun when it first comes up, has helped me sleep so much more profound, like a deep sleep.
I can agree with that.
Because actually, based on my genetics, I am a light sleeper. Did you know
I did not know that was a thing.
there's a thing.
Wow.
If you're a light sleeper or a deep sleeper.
Interesting.
So now I sleep well, but I have to make sure that I'm doing those things for me in the morning so that I can go to sleep, especially because sometimes, coming back from the hospital or dealing with people, by the end of the day, I'm like, oh, I need my time.
Yeah. There's I feel like a little controversy with what you said, just because you said when you look right into the sun, and like some people do that. Some people think that it's like terrible for your retinas.
But it has to be first thing in the morning. Like,
yeah. Not when it's like midday.
No,
and like
no,
this,
no,
yeah.
no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to clarify.
Yes.
But yeah, I can attest to that. I feel like that's where the whole concept also of you shouldn't wake up and start scrolling, because you're getting into that blue light already instead of getting like the red light, the light from the sun, like, and not through a window either. Like being outside for that makes a huge difference.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if this has anything to do with that too, but I've noticed that when I take afternoon walks while the sun is setting, it also helps me unwind and get ready for bed so well. Like I get a delicious sleepiness when I do that.
Listen, when you have, and I did a reel on this, when you have a morning routine and an afternoon routine, you're going to be more grounded and focused, but it also tells your body to start preparing for bed.
Yeah.
Because what happens is, like, cortisol gets a bad name, obviously. Too much cortisol, right, can cause an inflammatory response where people start getting visceral fat around here. But in the morning, the cortisol is what gets you up.
Yeah.
So, cortisol, if you look at a diagnostic test, when you actually look at your cortisol levels, you're going to see the diagram that's going to go like this. So, like, you wake up and it's going to go up, and then by like 6 o'clock you start crashing. Cortisol goes down, melatonin is produced. So just that afternoon walk, it's already telling your body to, getting preparing for bed.
And I think people sometimes just overlook that step because we know, our brain knows it's daytime, it's nighttime, and like what you want it to do. But like sometimes we forget, like we do have to communicate that to our body. Like we are a system that needs to.
How many people are disconnected to your body? I was that person.
Me too. I think we all have been at some point.
Like I got to the point like, wait, I help all my clients get results. I do so much, but I was like on autopilot mode.
Wow.
And I love what I do, so I can keep going. And that's something that I had to learn the hard way, which is, I can't pour from an empty cup.
Yes.
And that's something that I really grasped recently. Sometimes I still struggle because I love what I do and I just want to keep going.
No, I totally understand you. I mean, I don't have my own clients as of yet, but like just talking about this stuff, I could talk about it forever. Like it really does fascinate me. And I think it comes back to like when you've experienced it for yourself, you want to like share it with the world because it's such an amazing feeling.
Especially when you go through, I remember my doctor told me, if you don't take care of yourself, or even with not even my primary doctor, the naturopathic doctor that I worked for, when I was going through his program, he's like, if I didn't find him in time, I probably would have had breast cancer by the age of 30.
Oh my gosh.
And I mean, I had a lot of health issues. I mean, I'm kind of dealing with some little minor things on my own right now, but once I get to the bottom line, maybe we can do another live and then I can talk about it. But it's just one of those things. It's an ongoing lifestyle. Yeah. If I go back to the same routine I was, it's all going to come back.
Yeah. I love this conversation.
I know, we can keep going for hours. The whole world of nutrition is so complex.
Yeah, especially when you look at it how you're saying, like mind, body, and spirit.
It's a game changer. Everything's connected. Everything works synergistically together. So you can't fix one without fixing the other.
Yes.
Everything is connected.
And I'm witness to that. I've seen that in people where they do the most in terms of like trying to solve things physically, like anatomically, I guess you could say, like
Got
with
it.
medication and all of these things, but then when you don't address the spiritual side that's affecting you, it's not really gonna, it's not cohesive. It's not gonna really heal
Right.
you the way it could.
And the body, God made us to heal.
Yeah.
We just have to do the right things, and you know, it's possible.
Oh my God. I really hope that some of you are inspired by this and that a lot of you can reach out to Luciana. If you have any questions, maybe call her for discovery calls.
Yes, I do discovery calls.
Are those free?
Yeah, 30 minutes.
Free 99, 30 minutes, and you could find out
And
if you could work with
I
her.
do bring a lot of value, even if we don't ended up having a first initial consult working
Mm.
together. Most of the time, I already know who to indicate the person to. If we're not like
Gonna
if I'm
work
not-
together?
right?
Oh, so you'll refer them to someone else who could help.
Correct.
Oh, great. That's even better.
Yeah. You know, because a lot of people don't work through insurance.
Mhm.
So I'll send them, you know, likely send them to a dietitian that can work with insurance, and they can still get them started and things like that.
Yeah.
Because definitely my private practice, I don't work with insurance.
Yeah, which is a common thing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people know that. But that's great that you take that into consideration.
Yeah.
Thank you so
This
much
was great.
for doing
we can
this.
Keep talking for hours.
I know. This made me so happy. And you haven't technically agreed to this, but you will see more of us in the future. I definitely attest.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you. That was awesome. Thank you.
Love you.
Love you.
Oh my God, that was amazing.
I thought it was great.